Hello, what I have here, piece of Osage, my entire universe at this point. Oh my gosh, just wait till you see that maple sinew-backed bow that I've been working on. You're going to see some subtle differences, and that's wherein lies the magic of bows, is the subtle stuff. Few notes. This is propeller twisted. It's, let's see here, approaching probably 70 degrees of propeller twist from here to that end. Now the thing is, I could easily, get it down to one heartwood growth ring. And because it's wide enough, I could cut it into two. I wouldn't split it because if I'm going for two bows, I want to be careful and cut it rather than splitting it. But the weird thing about propeller twists is, I could have this, it appears that like each of the two bows would be lined up between center of the tip and center of the handle. But when you're dealing with unwinding wood, weird things could happen. I could try to get two bows out of here. Everything looks lined up when I cut this in half, but then when I heat bend the propeller twist out of it, I might get two bananas that would require edge bending, and even so, you might have limbs that look like a spiral. It's not worth it. And so I'm going to be on the conservative side here, and I can do this without violating too many of the horizontal fibers that run through it. You've got the growth rings, but then you also have the fibers that run end to end. If I go from this tip on my right, and go straight to the left side, again violating some of the side fibers, minimal, I'm going to have a flat bow. One simple, not requiring any edge bending, not even requiring, I'm not even going to be required to get propeller twist out of it. And so you have to be cagey that way. Now, why I can take some chances on getting minimal fiber runoff going this way and then cutting this way. First of all, the amount of shooting off to the side versus the length. Not going to be that much. Probably almost minimal, almost unnoticeable. But what kind of bow is it going to be? What's the draw length? What's the draw weight? Will it be backed? Those all factor into it. Will it affect the look of the belly, because you're going to get the V's as you're thinning it down to get that taper? It's not going to affect the V's. It's not going to be that severe. Almost, again, veritably unnoticeable. Secondly, it's going to be a long draw bow. It's going to be bent, half of its length, but sinew-backed Osage, good there. Plus, it's going to be in the upper 30s, which is perfectly acceptable and will be a good performing bow, a really good performing bow, even though it's not 65 pounds because of the draw length. You could take, let's just throw some numbers out. These aren't the actual numbers, but it will demonstrate it. I'm going to make 51-inch bow. It's going to be, just throw it right in the middle, 35-pound draw weight, but at 26 inches of draw length. Again, these are just numbers, not the final ones. I have to check to see where they are. 35-pound bow at 26-inch draw length. Or I could make a 60-pound bow with a, let's just again throw numbers out there, 20-inch draw length. I would say that the distance that it could throw an arrow, the actual amount of energy being put into that arrow, more or less the same. Lighter bow, longer draw length. Heavier bow, shorter draw length. Why not go for the longer draw length? Then you can get a full anchor, whether it's here, or it's here, or it's here, depending on the arm length of our chair. And so at 35 pounds, again, just throwing a number out there, it might have been 37, it might have been 38, but let's just say 35. Osage, sinew-backed, whatever. It's a bow that is not going to break. It is a bow that's not going to suffer extreme, or maybe even any string follow. It depends on the design, of course, because I am not overloading Osage and sinew. It's gonna be a wonderful bow. As far as, this is the major tool I use to remove the wood, and I use it as a push knife, not a draw knife. Everyone's different. I have more control when I'm pushing. And so step one, hog off a bunch of material and get to within 1 or 2 growth rings of the heartwood. It's ugly. It's just a brutal looking, terrible thing to watch me hog down an Osage stave. It's chipping, knocking it, almost sometimes doing this stuff. It's ugly. But then I get down to within 1 or 2 growth rings. Let me tip this so you can actually see it. 1 or 2 growth rings. You see some zones. You see the upper level, nice smooth back. A couple chatter marks, because when you're doing this, you're going to get some chatter marks in it, but it's going to be sinew backed. I can sand them off, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's going to be hidden under sinew, not going to affect anything. Get down to 1 growth ring, and then this is just above that growth ring, this zone right here. I don't want to have growth ring and then a lot to remove. I like just barely a little bit because you've got more control over it. And so I will have the clean, almost clean, and I always keep about this distance or so. I'd never allowed this to get all the way to where I have to remove a lot of wood. I mean, you can, then you just carefully get to this just above your target and develop this, but I like to have this almost where I could just scrape it off with this, but I'm still going to use a draw knife. Almost like working a ledge when you're flint knapping. I'm going to take this and I'm going to, a little flip. I got a nice edge there that can catch on the draw knife, building a ledge. One note, I'm going to shock and amuse you. I don't remember the last time I sharpened this. This is not razor sharp. I do not like to have a razor sharp edge in this tool because it's as much as a splitting tool as it is a shaving tool. Sure, have a razor sharp draw knife, it's going to make working down to that almost layer a lot easier, but when I'm against this, I do not like to have a razor sharp edge because it can cut into it. You find, especially with Osage, this is kind of neat because when you start getting down to here, you're listening to crunching. That layer above it is crunchy, and so you hear crunching sounds when you hit the heartwood and you're going down into the heartwood to hit your target ring. It's kind of a neat thing. Working a clean stave of Osage is actually quite simple, quite easy. It's when it has knots and it's got snakes and it's got knot holes and stuff like that, and you've got undulations and you have to work like in these small areas and break out the sandpaper and stuff. That's when it gets tricky, but do not be afraid, my friends, of working an Osage bow down to the heartwood. For your first attempt, certainly get a snaky bow. Get one, if you want to, you can do it. First timer can work down to a growth ring in a ridiculous piece of Osage given patience and care. But if you want to make it easy, you don't want to spend a lot of money because it's like the price of gold now. My main supplier, I used to buy a premium piece of Osage for $100 and now not $100. But there's a fellow on eBay that you can trust. This is a name you can trust as a gatherer and purveyor of Osage. L.E. Lima Echo, getting all phonetic on you. L.E. Enterprises. You can trust him. And sometimes he has walnut, which is a beautiful wood. He sells green, he sells cured. And you're going to get a savings with green. Just make sure the bark is off it so the bugs don't get in it. Just sock it away forever. Buy multiple pieces cheaper than a dried cured piece. Just forget about it. Time just, you jump up on this earth, when you land it has turned. You get my drift. But L.E. Enterprises is a good, reasonable place to buy Osage. Descriptions are accurate, prices are good, sells good quality stuff. I think he's in Iowa, I'm not sure. Yeah, and this is my old, again, not razor sharp, but sharp Western Cutlery W84, not the best steel, but for some reason, this thing works for me better than a super high quality knife. I really like the W84, and I've made so many bows with this and my original one. But yep, that's about it. Gonna see some progress on this bad boy. Oop, sorry, W84. Now, as far as working down, yeah, I knew that would happen. Working down to a single growth ring in heartwood, it differs. It really does. You're going to start approaching the edge of the allowable stress in your piece of wood. Heavy weight. I can make everything complicated. Then, and it's going to be a self bow, not backed. The back of this is going to be the back of the bow. Then I would take this thing, and I would not use this layer, again, 35 pound, 37, whatever, sinew backed. I could use this layer. This is a thin layer of Osage. Lower weight, sinew back, big deal. If this was going to be a heavier bow, self bow, not backed, I would go down, I only need to go down one layer beyond this to a wide ring, thick ring. And I guess that's all. I said that I was going to give you the results of trying to buy a violin made in 1760, only 21 years after the death of Antonio Stradivari, which means that person that made that violin could very well have been a student of Antonio, probably met him. Antonio, how's it hanging? You know, Giuseppe, good to see you. How are the children? Talk about provenance. I lost it within the last few seconds, and yes, you know, I could do the snipey things and stuff, but a lot of people watch eBay. I have no doubt that I was competing against, and the world of violins is not like a world of, you know, beginner acoustic guitars stamped out in China. To some people, spending $300,000 for a violin is nothing. You know, I could have bid $6,000, which would have been a huge, big percentage of my savings. And a violin found the ultimate of restorer. You don't send this to a YouTube channel that uses tight bond glue. You get my drift. I don't want to speak ill of anyone. If you know what channel I'm talking about, he doesn't deal with $300,000 instruments. So, you know, whatever. It's grandpa's fiddle. Tight bond would work. Whatever. It's not a dear instrument. Maybe it's dear to the family members, but tight bond is perfectly fine. Whatever. You know, throw some numbers out there again. Bid $6,000, won it by $1. Send it to an actual good restorer, spend $3,000 for it. I'm into that violin $9,000, which conceivably, easily, considering one of his violas sold for $72,000 in 2008, could have been worth it. But the damage to my savings would have been huge because I would never want to sell it. It would just be, this is John's $10,000 violin. Oh. But that is all. I'm going now. I'm going to continue working on this. Have a good one.